Good evening. Welcome to our college night. I would love to invite you all to come down because we did shower today. But we know that this is one of those things that this is a topic that sometimes you don't want to get too close to. But we are glad that you are here tonight because I was thinking about this all day. I was so excited. Last night I couldn't sleep because we have three of my favorite people in admissions on the panel today. And the reason that they are three of my favorite people in admissions is because they're so knowledgeable, they're so honest, and they're really, really good at helping keep things in perspective. So I hope you all will enjoy our program tonight because college admissions is a topic that is very important to all of us here at MBA, but also because college admissions continues to change. And so anytime you pick up a publication, whether it be a magazine or a newspaper or anything, it seems like there's something related to college admissions. And some of that is great and some of that is fake news. So we are hoping that tonight's program will provide you with non-fake news and some good information to use as you move forward. Before I introduce our speakers, I want to make certain that you all know who is in the College Counseling Office. For those of you who I have not met, I am Jenny Maddox, and I'm the director of the program here at MBA, and I'm thrilled to be here. This is my 27th year in the field, which hurts to say, gosh. But I've seen a lot of changes, and I'm so glad to be here at MBA because this is a place that is rich in opportunity, and the boys are really, really blessed to have a lot of opportunity to interact with each other and to have great experiences. The other thing that I'm really grateful for at MBA is my colleagues. And so I'm going to ask them to stand up so that I can introduce you to them. So there we go. Thank you. So to our to my right, your left, is Pat Killian. And Pat Killian joined the MBA staff 2 years ago. He is an MBA graduate. A lot of you may know him as a Latin teacher. He also is our swimming and diving coach. And he left MBA, went to Yale, and then went on to graduate school and came back. And we are thrilled to have him back and very blessed to have him. Next to him is Todd Moran. And Todd Moran is also an MBA graduate. All of the males on our staff graduated from MBA, which we're very, very lucky for. Todd teaches math, coaches football and basketball, and has helped a lot of students think about athletics at the next level. So he uses his experience as a coach to help students think about if they want to play at the next level, how to do that. And so we're grateful for what he does. Next to him is Coach K, Dick Klausner, who is also an MBA alum, as I said. He is an English teacher, also a soccer coach. He coaches soccer for the microbes and for the JV at the high school level. And Dick has been at MBA a long time, and so we are grateful for his experience and the wisdom that he brings to our program. He brings some levity, but he also brings a seriousness of heart. And so that's what we really appreciate about Dick, is that he cares deeply about all that he does. Kathy Moon did not go to MBA because she couldn't. But she is our office manager. She is also works with some of the boys. She's taking on a small group of students and working with them in terms of counseling. She coordinates all of our testing, so the PSATs and the AP program. Kathy coordinates all of that, and we're so grateful that she is there. If your boys talk about stopping by the College Counseling Office for a Jolly Rancher, Kathy is the person who keeps them supplied with those. They're only allowed to have one a day, so we will not pay dentist bills. But Kathy is there, and we're so grateful for what she does. And Leland Davidson joined our office 3 years ago from a graduate program at Vanderbilt. She attended the University of Virginia and is in the College Counseling Office full time. She's also done a little bit of work with the leadership programs here at MBA as well. So that is our staff, so that you all know who we are. So when you get emails from any of us or you need to reach out to one of us, we are happy to help you. Thanks, guys. And now on to our panel, three of my favorite people. Our first guest is Christopher Gruber. Chris Gruber was appointed the Vice President and Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at Davidson College in 2005. In this role, he's a member of the President's Cabinet and is responsible for articulating the mission of the college to prospective students and their families. Dean Gruber works closely with all constituents from across the college and directly with his staff of 30 that oversee enrollment management, financial aid, and scholarship. Prior to Davidson, Dean Gruber served as the Director of Admissions at the University of Richmond, where he worked from 1985. Is that right? You said hours. Yeah, you're young. You're young. Dean Gruber is also a member and has been a delegate for the National Association of College Admissions Counseling, as well as a member of the College Board. I'm not going to go, and he's done a lot of other things, but I'm going to keep these short because I want to make certain that we have time to talk about other things. Next to him is Yvonne Romero Di Salva, currently serves as the Vice Dean, Director of Admissions at the University of Pennsylvania. Prior to this role, Yvonne worked as a corporate strategist and higher ed specialist at the College Board, and as an Associate Director of Admissions, coordinator of minority recruitment, sorry, my tongue isn't working, at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Yvonne has recently completed her Doctorate of Education degree in Higher Education Management at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education, studying change in the admissions evaluation process. And this is going to be great because they have really done a lot of change at the University of Pennsylvania and how they review applications, which we will talk about, and it's something that she's done a ton of work on. Yvonne earned a BS in mathematics from MIT and an EM education, Master's in Education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and an MBA from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And then, last but not least, is Christopher Watson, and he became the Dean of Undergraduate Admissions at Northwestern University in August of 2007. Prior to Northwestern, he worked for 7 years in the admissions office at Princeton University as Associate Dean and Director of Admissions. And when he was at Princeton, he actually traveled to Nashville, so that was part of his territory. And Yvonne told me she traveled to Nashville when she worked at MIT. He also worked in the admissions office at Boston University for 6 years, and he's a graduate of Bowdoin College. He earned a master's degree from Boston University. So these are our panelists, and I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this program tonight. I'm going to ask them, start us all off, and ask them some questions. Part of that is because, of course, we always have an agenda, and there are some things I would love for them to talk about so that you all can learn, and truth be told, all of us can learn from their wisdom. And then, after we have gotten the ball rolling, I would love to open it up, and we will open it up for your questions, because you may have come with some things that you want to learn about, and we want to make certain that you have that opportunity to do that tonight. So I'm going to start by asking, and Chris Gruber, we're going to start with you, about if you would tell us a little bit about the institution you represent and the admissions process there.
So I'm at Davidson College. So I am at what would be classified as a national liberal arts college, and the fact that we are drawing students from all across the country, all across the world. We are a place of 2,000 students, enroll about 500 new students each and every year. The interesting thing is while we are located in the South, the schools that we compete with are better known as the New England Athletic Association, because we're the only one really in the South that looks like us. The type of admission process that we employ at Davidson is we utilize a holistic review. So we're looking at all parts of an application. There are no low side cutoffs. There's nothing on the high side that is going to automatically have a student that is offered admission to the college. Is that as brief as you want it right now?
Yeah, that'd be good, because you have some other things I'm going to ask you about with your process too.
Okay, well, hi, thank you. So the University of Pennsylvania is located in Philadelphia. It has 10,000 undergraduate students. We admit about just over 2,400 undergraduates each year. We're the oldest university in the country in that we're one of the colonial colleges, so it's been around for a long time, so long it was founded by Benjamin Franklin. So he's a big part of the ethos of the university. And it's the first university because it had a medical school and a College of Arts and Sciences at the same time. So it was the first that had two faculties. For undergraduate students, they can either choose from 4 of our undergraduate schools, which is the largest is the College of Arts and Sciences. We have the Wharton School of Business, the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, as well as the School of Nursing. We also have 5 coordinated dual degree programs that specialize in a particular area like management and technology, where students can get degrees in 2 schools. And so at Penn, students do have to apply to a specific school. So they should have an idea of not only kind of the major or the academic area that they're leaning in, but then the school that they're applying to. So as Jenny mentioned, at Penn, we've started a new evaluation process that is holistic. We started it 4 years ago, and today about 12 colleges and universities are using it, and we anticipate this summer that more colleges and universities will begin to adopt this model at Penn. It's called committee-based evaluation, and what happens is that instead of one person reading an application and taking notes, 2 people read and analyze the application at the same time, and every application gets analyzed by at least 2 people. And I can talk more about it later, but that's our process.
Good evening, everybody. I am Chris Watson from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. Our campus is located just north of the city of Chicago, our undergraduate campus, on the shores of Lake Michigan. We also have a graduate campus in downtown Chicago, just off the Magnificent Mile. It's where our law school, med school, and hospital are located. Northwestern has about 8,000 undergraduates studying in 6 different undergraduate schools and colleges. Our students are either in arts and sciences, engineering, have to count these to make sure I get them all, engineering, communications, journalism, education and social policy, and music. And our students, when they do apply, have to choose one of the schools and colleges to which they'll be applying. However, once you get to Northwestern, you're free to take classes among the different schools. What's very important at Northwestern in our application process, it's very similar, but we do look at, in a holistic way, the applicant and all of their academic strengths. We look at their non-academic strengths, meaning their extracurricular activities. We also have a component to the application, and we like to know that students will take advantage of our location in Evanston and Chicago. So there's kind of a experiential learning. What else will you do and contribute outside of the classroom component? And then we're also looking at essays and recommendations, which I think we'll talk a little bit more in depth. So if you're ever in the area, we would love to welcome you. And the weather has changed, so I can't guarantee there won't be snow, but there probably won't be at this point.
That's great. Yvonne, we'll start with you, because I think that one of the things about and you and Chris can both talk about this a little bit, but in your process, when a student applies and they have to declare a major in one of your colleges or one of the colleges within the university, how does that impact their review process? And Chris, I would love for you to talk about that from a liberal arts perspective. Does major matter?
Well, so yes, when we do look for students to pick a school, and then what happens is that they're then evaluated within the requirements necessary to be successful in that school, as well as a demonstration of an interest, an academic interest or passion for what that school offers. So for nursing, as an example, we'll look for academic preparation in the sciences and statistics if they've taken it, but also just through their activities, an actual interest in healthcare and patient care. And so that they're able to demonstrate that and talk about that as something that really drives them to be a nurse. Because we want to find strong alignment with the academic program and our school and kind of what the student has presented. In the School of Engineering, we're looking for students who've really challenged themselves by taking a rigorous course load in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we'll look for achievement in calculus, achievement in physics, because those are really foundational courses in those disciplines. In the School of Business, we're looking for the highest levels of calculus, because our economics and finance are calculus-based, and so we use information based on analysis of students and student success at Penn, and what courseworks and sort of profile they need to be, sort of present that strong confidence of success. And then within the college, we like to see a lot of resonance around, the disciplines could be broad, history, it could be a foreign language, archaeology, and so some disciplines might have certain alignment within the academic courses and or activities. So an example might be if a student's really interested in the biological sciences, we would expect that student to be challenging him or herself by taking coursework in that area to really get a sense of what that's like that they can build upon. I do think that students can be undecided. They do have to pick a school, but they can be undecided within the school. But oftentimes it's undecided leaning in a direction or a couple of areas that they are interested in pursuing. And so it's not just the achievement in school, but it's also that intellectual passion that we're looking for, and that a sense of whether or not that student's going to thrive and really take advantage of the intellectual opportunities that are available at the university.
I would say we're very similar, so I don't have much to add. Just remember that as both of our institutions are at their core liberal arts research universities. So no matter which school you end up applying at Northwestern, there is a foundation that we're looking for from all applicants. So there is a foundation within the humanities, the social sciences, math, foreign language, and we do have those requirements before you can enroll or be admitted. A couple of other things that when you're thinking about schools that are made up of, universities that are made up of separate schools, one example I like to give is our music school. Our music school is audition based. There's still the evaluation of the academics and everything else, but if you don't pass the audition, you can't get into the music school. And it's a kind of a stopping here with the application. So if you don't pass the audition, that's the only program though at Northwestern that has an audition or a portfolio requirement. But it's something to think about as you're going and looking at other larger research universities. Keep in mind it's not necessarily one size fits all, and make sure you ask the right questions about your particular academic interest. Because what we're probably going to hear from Chris in a second is that there's a little more flexibility in the application process than there might be with our two universities.
Chris is right. Chris is going to talk about that. Yeah, I'm convinced, and I use this as a sample of two older kids that have already come through our house and graduated from college. My kids didn't know what they wanted to do on Friday night, let alone what they wanted to be studying for 4 years in college. So within our process, it does not matter what a student is stating that they would like to major in. For those students that are bold enough on their application to put down just one area, typically only 1 in 5 of them will have graduated with a degree in that area 4 years later. So we appreciate that minds will change. They'll start to take that introductory level class and they'll realize this is my first and last class in biology. I think I'm going to be going elsewhere. But also when you appreciate that a large number of students that are coming from the schools that we're all attracting kids from have had traditional curriculums that consist of English and math and history and foreign language and laboratory science, this really gives students the chance to go off the charts and try different things. And that's exactly what we want students to do when they arrive. As a result, independent of what a student states they think they may want to study, there's not a different set of criteria that is used in the evaluation of that candidate. What we like to see in terms of an application, and when a student states, I'm interested in all of these different things, it gives us a way to feed you information about those different programs. And we know that your mind changes from the time that you put majors down when you take the PSAT, when you take the SAT or ACT, from the time you file an application until the time that you enroll, minds can change. So we give you and allow for that flexibility.
That's great. So you guys talked about applications and the different types that they can, or if they can apply to a college or university, or if they can, apply to the college specifically. Tell us about the path that an application takes once it arrives in your office. How does that review
Apparently I'm
process
going first.
go?
Oh boy, the path an application takes. It's it's a little complicated in that we received a little over 37,000 applications this year for a first-year class of 1,925. We did it. It doesn't mean we only admitted 1925. We did admit 3,300 to get to 1925. And our office is broken down into reading teams, and the reading teams are geographic. So there are officers who are in charge of reading all of the applications that come from this area of the country. So in Northwestern, it means from Tennessee and points a couple of states east, west, and south. That's the reading team, and their job is to be experts in all things of the education systems of these different states. And they'll be the first ones to read an application from here. And as the application winds its way through the process, as Yvonne said, every application is read at least twice, and then sometimes a third or a fourth time, depending on a music applicant will be read at least 3 times, for instance, or a theater applicant will be 3 times if it's a performance-based major. And so in each path along the way, the officers are pulling out information, recording that information, and then kind of giving a little write-up and analysis of what they think of the applicant and how that particular applicant may or may not thrive at Northwestern, and how are their evaluation as a candidate. Knowing before we even start doing this, as an office and as a university, we've set out goals for the office and letting them know the kind of student body that we hope to enroll the following September. And so it is a holistic process, and all of the essays do get read, all of the recommendations get read, and then notes are done, and then eventually at the end of the process, we, as a group of admission officers and also faculty are involved, our president is involved, select the 3,300 candidates to be admitted. So there is a method to the madness, but it takes several days to actually go over all of the details.
Okay, so at Penn, there are elements that are very similar. We have 41,000 applications, admitted just over 3,600 students to Penn between early decision and regular decision. We also have territory managers, and we also have what we call macro regions that are teams of admissions officers that study and plan and recruit and prepare within large macro regions of the country. So the South, the Midwest, the West, the North. The North is such a big region for us that we actually split it into New England, New York, and then Pennsylvania and New Jersey together. And so our staff are assigned to territories that are contiguous within those macro regions, and that was a shift for us. We used to, I always use the example of John Sands, whose territory in the old days was Tennessee and Kentucky, and then central New Jersey. And what would happen is that all of his attention was drawn to central New Jersey in terms of counselor calls and parent calls and emails from applicants because of the volume. And it just didn't make sense in terms of what's happening in that region. So that's one of the reasons that we changed, so that all of our staff members were really sort of could talk and plan and discuss and really become specialists, not just in one individual for the territories that they're responsible, but for a team to have shared knowledge across the team. When it comes to reading the application, as I mentioned at Penn, we've developed a new way of evaluating applications that we call committee-based evaluation. And what happens is that the territory manager reads or evaluates the application together with a second admissions officer, often from that same macro region, so that members in the South can really become specialists, not just in the state that they're a manager for, but then other contiguous states. And what happens is that the territory manager is the specialist in the academic programs and offerings and the things that are happening within that territory. So they're really responsible for the academic review of the applicant. So looking at the transcript, the school profile, the teacher recommendations, the guidance counselor recommendations. And so they're looking at those components of the application. At the same time, the other admissions officer is looking at all of the personal components of the application. So the common application, we'll start using the coalition application next year, the essays, an interview report, and any additional recommendations. And together they're doing an assessment and then sort of sharing information about the applicant and coming to and having sort of an analysis of the competitiveness of that applicant relative to the school or program that they applied to, as well as fit for the University of Pennsylvania. And what you find actually happens is that even though one person's maybe looking at the common application activities and then reading essays, that you begin to see a synergy develop. In the most ideal cases, you begin to see a synergy and a resonance occurring across the two parts of the application, where as one person's reading activities, the other person's reading the guidance counselor report that's talking about the significance of those activities and the significance of the student participation. And actually you find then gaps when it isn't mentioned in the counselor report. You look at the activity list and wonder why that isn't as significant. Or you'll hear talk about being interested in this academic program and so on and so forth. So what happens at the end of the day, the staff members are then responsible for providing 3 ratings. The first is on excellence of mind. So that's really that intellectual engagement. And it can be a student who's very narrowly focused with a passion on one particular subject or broadly interested in different areas, but it's that sort of, how do they tick intellectually? Are they going to be somebody who really takes advantage of this institution? And what is it that they really want to learn or do or make an impact in? The second is impact in your space. So the ways in which the student will or will not be remembered in their community. Are they somebody who is behind the scenes and really the holding everybody else up, or the one who's sort of shining out as the leader, or in a lot of other ways, in the community, at the school, in church, and so on and so forth. And then the final is fit with Penn. It's both fit with the academic program and then fit with the university and the philosophy of the university, because each of our places, as you will probably begin to hear, we have different things that are valued. Certainly academic excellence is valued across all of our institutions, but there's something about fit and sort of the environment and the community and things that shared values across the students that we're looking for. And then finally, a recommended decision. About 50% of our applications move forward from this committee-based evaluation into further evaluations. About 20% ultimately make it into final selection committees. These are run by a chair. I chair engineering, nursing, and the college, and admissions officers, as well as a school representative making a determination. So at each phase of the process, we're really analyzing the strengths of your application relative to the programs that you've applied to and the needs and priorities of the university. And we've been very happy with this process and happy to share more later.
Ditto. Our numbers are very, very different. 5,700 students applying for an incoming class of 500, 15 admission officers. The entire country and world is broken into 15 different areas, and that first person, these common themes of, that is most familiar with those schools, has visited, has worked with Jenny and her team over the years. That's the first person, because then they also are aware of those nuances in the school of there are no APs in this area and they have adopted this as an honors program. So they're familiar with those different things that are institution specific. They read it, they make an evaluation. They are also the one that are doing a fine-tooth comb in terms of looking at what the student has done academically and any trends in there. Second reader then comes in behind them and is not looking at the first reader's evaluation to then come in and submit a second idea as to what should the decision be. Those are then moved into a committee that consists of 4 to 5 different admission officers, and those 2 will present. If they are in concert and the rest of the group agrees, the decision, I then get to see it. If they are disagreeing, then it comes to a full committee, and that's all 15. We are painful in the way that we do early decision because we have all 15 of us that are in the room for every single decision. The great thing about that is when we have new members of our staff, it allows everyone to be calibrated and we are all understanding, because then we will do different test cases throughout early decision as well. And then we do them in regular as well, based on things that we are seeing and learning. No one person is making an admission decision. If I have argued with my wife, if I have argued with my daughter, if I'm running late, if I've hit every traffic light, if I've spilled coffee on myself, if I've gotten an unwanted phone call when I arrive in the office, the president wants to see me, and now I'm finally coming to my office, and the first thing I do is read your file. We want to have some checks and balances that are out there, so we make sure that we have those different things.
You've never had a day like that?
Never.
No, never argue with your wife, especially. All right. Well, you all have talked about a lot of different things, and so I want to hit on two things, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So let us be thinking about the questions that you want to ask. But you talked about institutional priorities, basically, that the institution, before you are starting to review a class, or maybe even sometimes as you're reviewing a class, is saying, here are some of the things that are important to us as an institution. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that's something that is not out there very often. And then the other thing is, how does that fit? Fit is something that people talk about a lot, and what is that? Can you define that for us?
Institutional priorities. Colleges and universities want lots of different things. We want students of different backgrounds, of different values, of different beliefs that have come from different parts of the country. You know, I think the word diversity has been an overused word in higher education, and I really think that umbrella needs to be defined, and schools need to be specific and say, well, what is it that you want, and what do you want students to be able to learn from one another and from their faculty and the staff and from the community that we're in. So we are looking to bring students with difference, students that are alike in some ways, students that are well qualified to come into this community. We're looking for them to engage. We are looking to have students, again, as I said, from all across the country, all around the world. We have a preference for those that are within the family in terms of legacy kids, and those are important to us, so that's an institutional priority. We are a small Division I school, 2,000, and there are 21 varsity sports teams. So that's something that is very, very important to us. When we look at our mission statement, and we state that we are looking to help students develop humane instincts, to be able to live lives of leadership and service, we're looking for that. We're looking for evidence of that as we are looking to understand what a student has done up through this time. So there are things that are guiding us in our review that we are looking for throughout the application. When you ask the question, and I'll be brief to pass this on, of what are things that resonate to us, we all have these different applications, and there are common parts of it that you fill it out once, and it applies to all of us. But then we have the supplemental area, which some would state, that's the really hard part, because now you need to be specific to us. But this is also where we ask the question of, why Davidson? And I want to know, what is it that resonates to you in terms of why are you looking at us? Why would you want to be there? What is it you're going to find? What is it that you're going to bring to this community? I've given the example often of now going back about 4 or 5 years ago, a young woman who, under her Why Davidson, wrote, "When we visited, Davidson quickly became my father's favorite school. Over the course of our visit, you could see him lighting up. As a result, he purchased the sweatshirt, the hat, the sticker, and all of those things. I have no interest in your school. You'd do me a great favor if you'd reject me." So the dad was sold, but the daughter was not. So, what's really important to us is understanding that match and that fit. If a student says, I'm interested in mechanical engineering, you're not a good fit for Davidson. We don't offer engineering. If you said, I've always dreamed of being on an urban campus, you should be looking elsewhere. We're not an urban campus. I've always dreamed of going to school in the north. Sorry, last I checked, we're in Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's this perfect articulation that is not just the surface level, but it's things where we say, the student has done their research. They know this place. They know how they're going to be held accountable. They know what they want to do over the next 4 years.
Thank you. No, that was great. I mean, I echo a lot of that. I think it's really hard to be 15, 16, 17, and like you said, knowing what you want to do in your life. And there's this, I think, a false perception that you should have it all figured out. And actually, for what I resonate with in an application is really sort of that genuine sharing of what is interesting to you. I don't have to be interested in it, but if you are and you can convince me why this is a passion for you, I can really get on board. And that's when I talked about the resonance and we're looking for cues and clues. Like if it's something you really love, the teacher that that physics teacher or the history teacher that you asked to write the letter of recommendation for you will very likely know that that's a passion of yours, something that they can speak to and articulate. And so I think as students, it can be so challenging because for many parents, this is important to you, that your child, is finds that right fit institution, and our process can seem so mysterious. And so there's this eagerness to provide advice and provide, do it this way, and what I and work it that way, and this, that, and the other. And what is really painful for me, from the sense of it's just a really missed opportunity, is when a student and a family really, in attempting to put the best perspective of the student forward, overworks the essays to a point where the student's voice and passion is lost. And there's even times when the student is referred to in the third person, meaning mom did it or dad. And that, and I've got a 12-year-old and I'm helping him with summer program applications, and so there's a point in life when that was appropriate. But this point in life, it isn't appropriate. It really should be that student's voice, because even with the spelling error or the missed grammar, if it's genuine and sort of authentic, and you can sort of build and layer kind of how you found this interest in the classics or an interest in Spanish and how that links to developing, something that you want to do over here, that it really comes to the fore. And this amazing counseling staff that you have, who know our institutions really well and can support you in writing that genuine letter of essays and so forth, use them, because Ginny has been in our admissions office watching us evaluate applications. She's seen the conversations that we've had. And so that's the part, when you talk about, I feel for you, because again, my son's sort of coming up in the ranks. He's 12 right now. It's not easy, and you're being judged, you're being evaluated, and it's mysterious. But I think the best advice I can give you is to try to present the most authentic and sort of genuine voice of what you're interested in, why, and how that fuels you. At Penn, and I mentioned kind of each of our institutions have a different ethos and philosophy. When Ben Franklin founded Penn, he has so many pithy quotes, but one of them is that the great aim of education is service to society. And so a common thread that we look for in our applicants, whether it's in nursing or in political science or communications, whatever it might be, is this idea of taking the education and making an impact in the world. And so I think that's another part of really, we care about how much you can demonstrate that you have a sense of what our institution is all about. And I can tell you, there's conversations where I'm like, this kid has no interest in Penn. Everything's off the charts, but hasn't even bothered to spend enough time to talk about what makes Penn different and special. And it's going to be a surprise to the school and the family that we're not taking this kid, but we just think they're cherry picking or trophy collecting by getting all these admissions yeses from different places. And it just wasn't genuine and authentic enough. So there's that fit component as well. Certainly institutional priorities in terms of coming up with a very sort of multiple voices in the class. Like, there's an element of education that's really important, and it's important to us that we have voices from Tennessee represented at Penn. That's unique. That's different for our environment, where we get a lot of applicants from the Northeast, as an example. So each of you in your own paths present a specific and a particular voice to bring to a campus, and I want that to really shine through when you represent yourself in this process.
Chris has said that the horse is dead, dismount. So that was great. Those were great answers. We're going to open it up for questions because I want to make certain that we use this time well. I have more things I can ask our guests, but I want to see what you all are thinking about and what you all would like to know. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. Is it essential to visit a school?
I would say if you can, yes. There's a lot of universities. This is one of the questions we were asked to be prepared for is it's demonstrated interest. There will be universities out there. When it comes time to the decision, it does not factor into the Northwestern process, but there are a lot of universities and colleges out there where it will, that your visit will weigh heavy on their final decision. But I just think visits are wonderful because it's great for the student to be able to say at the end of that visit, at the end of the tour, the information session, maybe they visited a class, maybe they're testing out the food by eating in the dining hall, whatever it might be, seeing if sports are important, they want to make sure they get a tour of the athletic facilities. If they're an engineer, they may want to see where all the creations are being made. Whatever it might be, at the end of that visit, the student says, yeah, I can see myself taking advantage of all this university has to offer inside and outside the classroom over the course of 4 years. I can see myself making friends here. I see myself contributing to life outside of the classroom. And so in that respect, I think it's very important to visit a campus if you can. And it can be a plus at some universities if you do. So I highly recommend it.
I'm going to put a plug in here too. You all have an opportunity to utilize some time. If you as a family are traveling someplace, it's a great idea to put some college visits on your itinerary if you're going to be in a different part of the country, or you're going to be in a city, or you're going to be not in a city, you're going to be driving to the North Carolina beaches, or you're going to be someplace else. Because one of the things I think is hard for students is to wrap their mind around what different colleges and universities really feel like. And so most boys, when they come in and meet with us for their first meeting, will be looking for what I call the Goldilocks school. They want it to be medium in size, they want it to have great sports, and they want it to be in or close to a city. And some of that is because that's what they know, and they want something that is familiar. But then they'll go and they'll visit Davidson College, and they'll say, oh my gosh, this is an amazing place where students talk about their relationships with their professors, and they talk about how they engage them in their learning process in a way that is profound and powerful. And then they'll go and visit a larger state university and say, gosh, they talked about how large their class sizes are. So maybe I don't want that large place after all, but maybe it's really that I want the environment, or they're looking at the environment as opposed to the numbers that seem comfortable and that seem Goldilocks in some ways, the things that they think that they may be looking for, but when they really dig down, they say, you know what, this is an experience that I need to really be thoughtful about. Chris, you were going to say something.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to when folks are visiting schools, and we see this, we'll see families that are in our office on a Wednesday morning, and they'll say, oh, we left home on Monday morning, you're our 9th school of the week. No, we shouldn't be the 9th school of the week, and it's only 48 hours into your visits. I think most people spend more time buying a new car than they do visiting colleges and universities. So if you come to any of our places and you go through an information session that's offered by one of the admission officers and you do the tour, now you've done the 2 hours of what we offer. Now I would say double your time. and go off the beaten path and see those facilities that Chris had mentioned that might be of interest, and spend some real time there. It is a marathon, it is not a sprint. Spend time absorbing, seeing the town, where do people go? Don't rush through that part.
Great question. What other questions are out there? Yes, sir. So the question was, how likely are you to admit students from the same school?
I think it just depends on any given year, and it really depends on the applicants that applied and the degree to which they spoke about their interests. There's schools where we'll take 10, and unfortunately a lot that we take none. Even working within a region that's a school that we typically take from in any given year, and so this is where that territory management really comes into play. I know what competitive applicants look like from XYZ school. I have Hawaii, so let's say one of the schools out in Hawaii, and the UK, so I like island areas. And so I know what the competitive applicants look like, and that year I know they're not taking the most competitive courses, or they're just not really presenting the strong students that I would have come to expect to see from that school. And then another year, again, like we might get 6 from that same exact school, and they were just a different sort of crop of students. So it really depends. I do think that while I recognize that a lot of the control sits on our side of the table in terms of the admissions decisions, I do think that a lot of opportunity sits on the side of the student in talking about what they're interested in and what they want to do.
One thing I've been doing admissions now for 23 years, and I've never heard any university or college have a quota per high school. So never had a floor or a ceiling. So never have I ever been involved in a conversation and said we have too many applicants, or we've admitted too many from a particular school, or we don't have enough and we have to go find one to admit. There's so much that's, as we were talking about earlier, it's of trying to get to, for us, 1925 that goes into that. Each of our 6 schools and colleges have an enrollment goal that add up to 1925. We have sports, we have theater, we have music, we have all of these different things, and if we have if the applicants from a particular school have applied to many different things, I think sometimes the chances are a little bit better if they're all applying to the exact same program, to do the exact same thing, to do the exact same extracurricular. It might be a little bit less. But that's just an observation. I have absolutely no data to back that particular comment up, but that's what I've noticed over the years.
That's a good point.
Yeah, those are great points. I'll just put it this way: 2 men enrolling from MBA this year at Davidson.
Yeah.
Does that bring it home a little?
Yeah. So that's great. I think that was a really good answers. I like those. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. So the question was, how important is it to know that the university or college is that student's first choice? This probably will be a great time to talk about early programs too.
Yep. Yeah, that's why we love early decision, because for us, and it demonstrates that the student is making a commitment to enroll if they are admitted. We received over 6,000 early decision applications this year, and it is the case that I won't say we certainly have a higher admit rate, but we forget there's, between March and November is a long span of time, and so our early decision students look really shiny. For 2 reasons. One, they're usually very well achieving students to really be ready to even apply early, and that they've thought a lot about it. But then the second part is that we're just getting back into it. And so the students look really strong, and if and we don't also have that, going back to the question from before, we don't yet have that full slate of students who are applying, so you're really looking in early decision within that pool of students who are applying early decision. And it might be the case that stronger kids apply, and not stronger, but a breadth of students apply regular decision, but when we're in early decision, we're making the decisions relative to that pool applying at that time. And if the offer is made, provided the student remains in good academic standing and good standing within their communities, that offer holds. It's a committed decision on both sides. So yeah, I mean, we like to hear it, but it should be sincere. We'd like for it to be sincere.
I think for the question of early decision and knowing whether it's somebody's number one choice, know that, and the data does back this up, that more and more students are being admitted to, especially private universities, through one of the early programs. And so I think have you had a lesson on early action, early decision, all those different things?
This is a young group, so not yet.
No, okay. So there's some terms out there you'll need to learn at some point. A little complicated to go into this evening, but it goes back to the idea of universities liking, the idea of students being on their campus for whom it's their first choice. We actually do have data to back up that the students who are happiest at Northwestern who graduate, Northwestern was their first or second choice. And that's wonderful. It adds to student life as students come to campus ready to be there, excited, and stay excited as opposed to disappointed. So we certainly think about that. And about half of our class, it does enroll through our early decision program. So that's almost just shy of 1,000 students, about 975 students will come through our early decision program.
Great. I think there were some other, great.
No, you can't. You can apply to dual degree programs. You can apply, it depends on, for at least Northwestern, you can apply to be an engineering student and a communication student, or a music student and an engineering student, or something like that. So we have dual degree where you can, from the very beginning, declare that you're very interested in studying in two of our schools. So yes, that is possible, but you have to let us know that in the application process.
Say that you do have to pick a school unless it's a dual degree program. Our dual degree programs are very well defined. One's the Huntsman program in international relations or international business, which combines the college and Wharton. I mentioned the management and technology program that combines Wharton and engineering. We have the Viper program on energy, which combines engineering and the college around energy research and sustainability, life sciences management. Yeah, so there's some flavors that you have to really understand that program well. They're great programs, great opportunities. But otherwise, the majority of the students enrolling at Penn are enrolling in a school, and they can double major, and there might be an opportunity for double degree, but more common is a major minor. And in any graduating class of 2,400 students, there are 1,600 permutations of degree double majors, major minor, triple major. I mean, it's just the students are, and that's kind of, the students at Penn are very interested and eager to learn and try new things and really go deep on things that they're passionate about. And so just being admitted to one school doesn't preclude, and in fact, students take courses across the schools. That's very much encouraged. It's part of, and many times purely just required in order to be able to fulfill your graduation requirements. And so it's certainly something that we want students to be able to do.
Other questions? Yes. So do you all distinguish between different sports in terms of the weight that they get in an application? So that if he put one on his application instead of another, would that help him or hurt him?
It depends. It's going to be dependent in our world, with all of us being Division I sports, it's going to be dependent on which coach is the loudest, okay? If you can hit a three-point shot with 65% accuracy, let me tell you, my basketball coach will be all over you. And that voice will be very, very loud. So it's going to be dependent on the school that you're applying to, the needs of that team and that coach at any given time. So I don't think there's going to be one answer that any of us would give you that is going to be the specific of, oh my gosh, yes, X sport is always above Y.
I would just say that that's only true if you're a recruited athlete. So if you're a recruited athlete and you're talking with the coaches, then it comes down to that play of two sports, perhaps. If that's what you're asking, then yes. But if it's just that you participate in two sports, it doesn't matter to us. I mean, we're glad that you do, and if that's important to you, we want to know about how you're spending your time outside of the classroom. Sports, for many people, is a big commitment, but it can be church-related activities. It could be community-based or family-related activities. So it's sort of misnamed in that it's said, it's sort of under this title of extracurricular activities. And so a lot of times students just focus on the activities related to the school, when in fact, as admissions offices, we really want to know about the breadth of activities that you do outside of the classroom that can be organized, like sports and clubs and organizations, or it could be individual passions, bird watching, I mean, I don't know, lots of different things that people are interested in.
Great question. Over here, you had a question? Okay. What is the impact of taking music classes on a student who is not going to be applying to a music major?
Yeah, we do, it's interesting. We do recruit for athletics. We also recruit for music. Our music school is run very much like a conservatory. However, most of the students who participate in musical clubs and groups and things like that are not music majors. So they were not necessarily admitted directly into our music school. And I think Yvonne said it best. It's not necessarily that there's a pecking order of which extracurricular is better. We're just looking for accomplishment and achievement outside the classroom, just like we are inside the classroom. There's a great correlation to being active here and being active in your school and being able to jug an academic load and a non-academic load and being a successful Northwestern student. So I think that's really where it comes down to the extracurricular review. Is not so much there's something specific or a laundry list of things that we're looking for unless you're being directly recruited for that. But most of the students we admit are not being directly recruited for athletics or music or theater, and those are our three biggies. But they have done some great things outside of the classroom, but there isn't one thing that's necessarily better than another. And just like we have a wonderful theater program, but most of the students who are involved in theater are not majoring in theater necessarily.
That's great. We have time for one more question. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so what's the underneath having a higher admission rate for early decision applicants versus the bigger pool of regular decision applicants? So it's a few things. Like Northwestern, just over 50% of our students are admitted in an enrolling class, are admitted through our early decision program. So this year it was around 1,300, and we admitted overall 3,600 between regular and early decision. You know, it's a big question, and I think for us, the way we approach it is, first of all, yes, the student is making a commitment, and so that threshold to say, yes, I'm going to come if I am admitted, we recognize and are honored by that, sort of that enthusiasm for Penn, and really have a student who's done his or her homework to really kind of know what Penn has to offer and really feels like they're aligned to what Penn offers. At the same time, again, it goes back to balancing our priorities. And I think that the philosophy that we take looking at our early decision applicant pool is that if we have the candidates in the early decision pool that are meeting multiple priorities at Penn, we should take them now. Like this, we know for sure the student is coming. And so one of the things we have been successful at is broadening the early decision pool across, like, geographically, socioeconomically, race and ethnicity based, internationally, across the academic schools. And so our rise in application is sort of in early decision, it's rising across all of these different areas that we need to care for in bringing together a class. And so we feel like if they're there, they align, they can articulate Penn well, show that we're going to just take them, versus we're not sure if they're going to come down the road. Now, at the same time, that doesn't, I don't want that to mean or encourage a student to apply if they're not ready, because the other part that can happen out of an early decision program is a deny decision, and we will deny students at that phase, and particularly students who really need that extra semester of academic preparation. Perhaps they had a slow start in high school, or a junior year there was an injury that took him away, we'll say him because we're boys here, away from the academic performance that he's accustomed to, and really needs to show that senior year shine academically, then wait. And so, or if the student just doesn't know, wait, because there's still spots being conferred in regular decisions. So, you see students who are really trying to game it, and it doesn't serve them well.
With early decision, a couple of things to put out there. I'm going to go back in time, and for some of the students in the room, bear with me for a second. Fall of 2009, the economy goes south. What happened? Right at that time, students were applying to colleges and universities under early decision. We've got people stating, if accepted, I plan to enroll. What did colleges and universities do? Most of the major schools in this country stated at the time that they accepted more that year. Why? They didn't know what the economy was going to do. They took more then. And there's never really been a formal retreat from that higher number of students taken going back to the fall of 2009. Let's also add this to the mix. Division I schools accommodate most of their athletes, as many as they can, at early decision. This is a huge change in what we were doing 20, 25, 30, 35 years ago, because they would come in at the very, very end. Now what we're saying to all of our coaches is, you're only going to get but so many. You're only going to have but so many, so as a result, you better go after those kids at a 1-to-1 rate, which is why all of this, and you hear about this, of so-and-so is already signed and they're a sophomore and they've committed to go to X school. So all this early recruiting has come about as well. So you've got your priorities out there, but I want you to hear the math, and then one last point. The gross majority of our offers of admission are still going out at regular decision. I put out 1,075, and I put out 80% of them at regular decision, though we had accommodated half of our incoming class by way of early decision. So you got to do the math with it. Yvonne brings up this great point of these geographical differences as well. I like to refer to it as the Acela Corridor, and if that's not a familiar term, the Acela Corridor is the high-speed train that goes between Washington, D.C. and Boston. In that area, if you walk into any number of the prep schools in that area and you say to the students there, what percentage of your students are going early something, it is going to be upwards of 70-80% of the students. Just stay on Interstate 95 and go south, or get on 85 and go south, and then you would land in Atlanta. Now what's the percentage going to be? It's typically going to be about half of that first number that you just heard. There's a huge geographic push in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic states with early decision. It is not, and it's also because of the schools that are out there that have it and are doing it and selecting a large portion of their class. So realize that there's some geographic differences that go with that. And the last thing that I would say with this is I think there's a gut check that goes with it. Students hear these numbers and realize I've got twice as good a chance at getting in that early decision. I think the real thing to answer, and I've got two kids that did it. One was a recruited athlete, the other was just looking, and I said, here's what you have to be able to prove to me. And that is that if you were admitted to that school on April 1st, and you were admitted to any number of other schools on April 1st, can you look at me and convince me that that is still the one place that you would be going to? Can you tell me with certainty that no matter what, that's still the place that I want to go? Then early decision is a good reason. If you're doing it just to strategize and play games with the numbers, I don't think that's the way to be doing it.
That was a great point. I'm going to give you all one last opportunity to give them some advice. What do you think that they should know? And then we're going to wrap up, and then we'll stay around for a little while in case you all have individual questions. But pieces of advice, anything that you think that they should know as they leave tonight?
Well, actually, as you were asking these questions, my first thought was, these are all great questions for your college counselors, especially about early decision, early action. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? They are the experts. We're experts in our own institutions, but not necessarily on every institution across the United States. And they do know all of these different things. They know the different schools and colleges that make up our universities and how you apply to them and what is needed. And so you have already built in here is this wonderful, wonderful resource. And I would, they may not like this, but I would run to them and make sure you become their good friend, because they are a valuable resource that is at your disposal. And there's a lot of history of sending students off to college and university, so that they understand in a unique way who we end up, oftentimes who we end up enrolling at our places.
I guess the advice I would give is to enjoy this process. And as the mother of a son, your parents are really trying to help you out. They really are meaning to be helpful, even if it doesn't feel that way. And this is really your future, right? I mean, in terms of this is where you're going to be for 4 years, 5 years of your life. It's going to form major friendships for a lifetime. And so, take advantage of those opportunities, spread it out so that, as Chris said, don't try and do it all in one fell swoop. Even tour around Tennessee and see just even the variances that are available here, because that can give you an impression of the size and the different aspects of campuses that you can form a sense, even if it's not that specific school that you're applying to. It can give you a sense of the range of differences that occur on campuses. And so take time, but this is really your process, so engage in it. I mean, there's never, you see the student who you feel like they're being schlepped in with the parent and really disengaged. And that's just the 2 hours you're spending on a campus disengaged is kind of a waste of your time, really. And so I'm not saying you have to be the eager beaver at the front, but at least be thinking critically about, well, what about this do I like? What about it does seem reasonable? And take advantage of this process because it's yours.
Trust the people that you get to work with. Look at the team of people you've got for college counseling. That's a tremendous dedication of resources from a school that is unmatched at many places. So there's one. And the last thing I would just say is, while this thought of our boys going off to school here, and as I've looked at it with my kids, the process symbolizes this parting of ways. But I still think it's a journey that you take as a family together. That's the fun part. I learned amazing things about my daughter, about my son, by doing this with them and on their terms. Don't talk about it every night. Do not allow your child to ever try to calculate the speed at which they could roll out of the car while you are driving in order to get away from a college conversation. That's usually when they get to the senior year. So you've got some time on that. But I would just say enjoy the time and trust the process.
That's great. I think you will agree with me. We were very blessed tonight to have these three guests with us here. I often say I've been doing this job that I do for 27 years for two reasons. For students, you are the reason I do this because I love working with students, and I think my colleague would say the same thing. It's so fun to learn about who you are and what your strengths are and what you enjoy and to help you figure out how to tell other people about that. And so that's what motivates me to come to work every day. But it's folks like these who keep me in the profession as well because they keep me sane and they take my phone calls when I have a question about something. And so this is a profession of people who really care about students and who care about the future of each and every one of the students that they work with. So we are very blessed to be here tonight and to be at MBA. So thank you for coming tonight. We're going to stay around for a little while. We need to take them for dinner because I think they're probably hungry or on Eastern time zone, except for Chris. He's on the Central time zone. So we're going to do that. But if you have any specific questions that you want to ask, please come on down. But thank you so much for coming tonight, and know that we are available.